Welcome, everybody. Let's go ahead and just sit and arrive. Go ahead and I'm gonna turn my phone over and find your seat. Feel your feet on the ground, or feel wherever your body is being supported by something, whether it's the chair you're sitting in or the feeling of your feet on the floor. Just become aware of the physical sensations. Might be the feeling of pressure or gravity or weight or softness or firmness. Some other adjective may be more appropriate. To tap into any sensations in the body, ease or tension, sensation of warmth or coolness. Any sense of the energetic body. In other words, do you feel settled or stirred up? Just checking in, no need for it to be any way other than just as it is right now. And then choosing somewhere to anchor your attention, either on the sensation in the body or using the breath as a place to let the attention rest. There's no right way to breathe or feel or sense, but just letting the awareness follow sensation. Just know it's there. Noticing each time the attention wanders, and very gently bringing it right back. Simply arriving exactly how you are, but just knowing, just bringing attention to, this is how it is right now. Feeling what you feel when you feel it. Welcome again. We all continue to arrive every minute in our life. We're continuing to arrive to the next, from 1 minute to the next, one moment to the next. I actually don't know what Edie did while I was away. I was away in San Diego, and I'm going to be moving us back to the parsha. And it just seems to me that the parshiot, especially since we got into Exodus, feels so just totally attuned to the political moment in our country. And I'm going to share a little bit about what it's been like for me, but I totally recognize it may be different for you, and that is absolutely fine. And I invite you to notice if a response arises in you when I say something and you notice your own inner response of that's right, or that's not right, or that, or, uh, a feeling of being heard or a feeling of resistance or if notice, just notice that that may come up, and it's totally fine. I'm just speaking for myself, but we're all here working on knowing our own inner workings better. So just to be aware. So this week the parsha is Mishpatim, which that word could mean laws, is sometimes translated as laws, sometimes it's translated as judgments, and sometimes it's translated as rules. And these verses focus on the concept of equality before the law and equity in social behavior, regardless of social standing or condition of enmity or amity. So, regardless of fear or favor or standing. So interesting to be talking about this right now. Light keeps blinking. Hang on. Thank you, Deborah. I'm gonna turn it up a little so maybe it won't do that. It's on a slider, so sometimes those do that. I hope that will help. Um, oh, it's your light. Okay, sorry. Feel free to turn off your camera and just listen too, if something like that pops up. So here we are at Mishpatim. Here's a very general intro out of the women's, just a snippet out of the women's commentary that says these are rules of life in a covenant community. And covenant means a promise on both sides. I will do this and you will do that. This is your role. This is my role. This is what we are in relationship to each other, and we owe each other something. Like we have responsibilities towards each other. So they describe this in the women's commentaries. This is a collection of case law, case rulings and rules. Refers to, it's called the Book of the Covenant, Sefer Habrit. And it covers a whole range of topics. It's just a wild range, from criminal and civil matters, like covers murder, assault, theft. And then it also has moral precepts and religious precepts, like treating the stranger. How do we treat the stranger? Observance of festivals. And although the stipulations in this parsha address a whole array of subjects, they're not quite a comprehensive legal code. There's many essential aspects of life in biblical times, like marriage, adoption, inheritance, that don't show up here. So the contents of this book of covenant can be divided into two groups of laws. The rules in the first group are case law. Case law meaning that the text describes a specific scenario, a specific case in which these legal consequences show up. For instance, when an ox gores a man or a woman to death, the ox shall be stoned. Agree or disagree, but like this is a specific case. When this happens, and then the second group, many of the regulations are phrased as unconditional imperatives. So similar to the language of the Decalogue or the 10 utterances, what we call the 10 Commandments, that just was last week's parsha. For instance, what shows up here is kashrut. You shall not boil a kid in its mother's milk. So here's my personal thing, and I yeah. I share this in order to shine a light on how I am reading the text. And a teacher can only teach what they know and how things affect them. And that's what I'm sharing, and how it is impacting my own meditation and prayer practice. So I've been a long time court watcher. I'm like a Supreme Court podcast nerd. I listen to at least 3, usually 4 different law podcasts a week. Don't ask me why. I don't know. Well, I think I do know, because I believe in the importance of law to make society livable. I hope that it will protect the vulnerable, including me. And maybe then when I think practically, it's like maybe it will help save us from our worst excesses. Like it's not perfect, but it is a thing. And one of the notable things for me at this current moment in this new government is that even when they have the legal means to change things, because they're, we have a Republican president, the Republicans control both houses of Congress, and you can say there's a big Republican influence in the judiciary. Even when they have the power to choose legal means to change things, they are choosing to do things outside of the law. So this is really interesting for me. For me, this is hard to know, pretty scary, feels disorienting. And so I practice to reground myself. I'm remaining aware of my own skepticism, remaining aware of my own anger, and when it is righteous and when it is just snarky, when I'm just piling on, aware of my own feelings of overwhelm, my own feelings of powerlessness, the desire to pull the covers up over my head, but also trying to discern when it's wise to take a break and when and how it is wise to respond as a citizen and as a member of a different kind of covenant community. I actually have, and I'm happy to stay on afterward if anybody wants to. I found a new app that helps me respond, calling Congress. Um, anyway, there are many, many ways. That's, yeah. So this Parsha reminds me that there are things that matter eternally. Like there's the moment, there's the case, but there's also things that are higher level and matter eternally. I practice, even and especially in times like these, to see more clearly, to act more wisely, to allow my heart to stay soft. So, oh, I did not set up the Safaria. Do you want to see raise your hand if you wanting me to take 30 seconds to get the verses up on the screen. Okay. I'm going to take 30 seconds to do that. And I'm going to try and talk while I'm doing that. The first verse, this parsha starts with, and these are the judgments, the rules, the laws you shall place before them. Okay, hold on 1 second. 21. Okay, and I will share it now. There we go. Ve'ele ha-mishpatim. So there's the name of the parsha. Ve'ele ha-mishpatim asher tasim lifnehem. These are the rules and laws you shall put before them. And then I want to share a little bit from my teacher, Art Green, about this. And this is where we point out that this is case law. So this is what he has to say about it. He says, each mishpat or judgment listed here, like starting right here, when you acquire a Hebrew slave. Well, apparently people were acquiring Hebrew slaves for whatever reason. It's basically an indentured servant. And here's the rules. Here's some of the rules. So he says, each mishpat or judgment listed here is the result of a story. This is a collection of case law. It's not abstract code. And that's why, if you feel like reading through this on Safaria, go for it. You'll see it's kind of a haphazard order. And he says, this is how it might have come together. Sometime shortly after Sinai, there was an Israelite who owned a slave, and because of a debt that could not be paid off, when the time of bondage was over, so he had to go work for 6 years, the man refused to go free, not wanting to leave his wife and kid behind. So they came and asked Moses. Then there was a guy with a daughter, and then there were two guys who had a fight, and one of them died. And then there was this terrible story in the camp of a child who killed his parents. Like each of these were stories. And all of these are reading from the case book of Moses's court. And the Vav here, so ve'ele, and these. It's interesting, they didn't put that in the English translation, but that Vav here is and ele, these, and these. It's seen as linking it to what came before. This Vav connects to what happened before. And it directly ties these chapters back to where Yitro advises Moses to set up courts. You're supposed to judge the people constantly. The hard things they shall bring to Moses, but the small matters they shall judge themselves. These are the list of the hard things that were brought to Moses's court. That is a way of reading this. And they got written down as laws, quote unquote laws, for the sake of precedent. I don't know if you remember precedent. Oh, it can be a little snarky here. Precedent is a thing that used to happen in our courts. Um, uh, but there are real stories with real people behind each of the stories. And that's really important. We look at these uh, nomos and narrative, nomos meaning laws and narrative, and they're intertwined. An abstract law has almost no meaning without understanding how it affects real people in real life. And for our, okay, I can stop the share for right now. For our mindfulness practice, we look at our own habits and look at our own inner judge, our own judgments and rules that we live by. And we can become aware of the stories that are under them. We can investigate and see how they are working for us or not. And when we find out they're not working for us, it's so good to know. And maybe we can do something over time to change that. Okay, I'm going to jump around to a couple other things that stood out for me and share those with you, and going to pull it together for our sit. So I'm going to scroll a little bit. Sorry, it'll be dizzying for just a second. Don't look if it makes you dizzy. I'll tell you when I get there. Okay, and here we are. Kol almana v'yatom lo ta'anun. If you see this word yatom, the Kaddish yatom, which we call mourner's Kaddish. Kaddish yatom is really the Kaddish for the orphan. Yatom is orphan. Kol almana, every widow or orphan, you shall not ta'anun. You shall not ill treat. You shall not abuse. So that's, in this list of all these laws and things, that shows up. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but I want to point that one out because I want to use that for our sit. You'll see. And then I'm going to pull out one more right here. Lo tisa shema shav el taseh yadcha im rasha lehit ed Hamas. That's interesting. I forgot about that. In Hebrew, Hamas. It's often violence here. It's malicious witness. Another way of translating this is, so here it says, you must not carry false rumors. You shall not join hands with the guilty who act as a malicious witness. Another way of translating is, you shall not bear a false rumor. You shall not put your hand with the guilty to be a harmless witness. This is an injunction, begins a whole group of laws that are intended to enforce the concept of equality before the law and equity in social behavior, regardless of social standing or whether it's an enemy or a friend, regardless of your connection to the person. You're not supposed to say something false or join hands with the other side that might help you out, Eric Adams. Just as it seems to me. The prohibition on bearing false rumor reminds us of the third commandment in the 10 Commandments, but instead of pertaining to solemn oaths, it addresses our capacity of ordinary speech to do harm. This didn't come out of nowhere. This could have come out of, how are we going to uh, how are we going to regulate social media? You must not carry false rumors. You shall not join hands with the guilty to act as malicious witness. But, this is old. So I'm going to leave it with just those two for right now. As you can see, there's a lot more. And the two, I'm going to stop the share. Don't abuse the widow or the orphan. Don't bear a false rumor. Don't put your hand with the guilty to be a harmful witness, even if there's a little quid pro quo involved in there. I think these stood out for me just because I'm looking to remember this as I'm hearing the news. It goes on with more about how judges should judge justly, and I'm just not going to get into that now, just because there's just so much. What I want us to do with this in our meditation, which we'll get to in just a minute, is to think about the widows and orphans. Yes, people who are vulnerable, but also the widows and orphans in our own thoughts, the ones we want to ignore. The parts of us that we wish weren't there, that are inconvenient, that feel needy, that it would just be so much more convenient if they just, And also, we're told not to bear false rumor. So shining a light on our own capacity to do harm through speech, yes, of course, in the external world, and to our loved ones who usually get it, at least in my life, they're the easiest targets, right? Because they're gonna forgive you, hopefully. Bill, you're not nodding. Um, uh, but to not bear false rumor to myself. So to watch my own self-talk, to not lie to myself. We know that there is the inner judge, the inner evaluator, who does not often give us a fair shake, that is very, very strict and very, very unforgiving, and actually not necessarily true. That's our invitation today, to consider the widows and orphans of our own feelings, the ones that may be easier to turn away from, and by pushing them away, in seeking to avoid these feelings, I may tighten up inside in the pushing, as well as tightening up my physical body. For me, it's like that clench the jaw or the back of the neck. And we'll practice as we have before, welcoming them into a compassionate space to just let them be, let them relax and find their own place and move through us so we don't get stuck in them. And the invitation is also to notice when our own internal dialogue is bearing false rumor, limiting language, judgmental language that we may habitually use towards ourselves and to others. I'm not a good meditator. I'm too whatever. The rumors that we raise through false comparisons, somebody else is better, faster, more virtuous, more beautiful, more interesting, more, I don't know. Let me share one last thing here from Art Green that will help us in this sit too. So this is from another verse in there that says, if you harshly afflict him, I'm not going to go back to that, but if you harshly afflict him and he cries out to capital M me, if you afflict a person and that person cries out to God, to capital M me, I will surely hear his cry. If he cries out to capital M me, I will hear him, for I am compassionate. Every verb in that verse is repeated. I will hear, for emphasis. The widows and orphans, the poor, the helpless within human society are heard by Yud He Vav He. That's why I come back to read this stuff. It's like, oh yes, that's what I wanted to remember. They are heard by Yud He Vav He. This assurance that crime against the helpless does not go unnoticed. Like we don't have to, we're not devolving to nihilism, to nothing matters. The assurance that crime against the helpless does not go unnoticed represents the very beginning of morality. This is the beginning of human conscience. Not that if I get caught, I'll be smited, but that it's heard, that it's known, that my suffering is somehow known. The call for righteous behavior towards those who cannot defend themselves begins with this: God hears. The truth is not lost, even on those of us who do understand God hears in a simple way. Let's say the human ear that lets my human ear, your human ear, that lets itself be transformed when it hears. I am Yud He Vav He, your God, who brought you forth from the land of Egypt, from the house of slaves. That ear, my ear, your ear, becomes an ear of God. In that hearing, we give our ears to God. And it requires us to listen to the outcry of God's creatures. When we don't listen to the cries of others, we diminish the image of God within us. So he makes this statement of faith, saying that each of us was created, and see how this sits with you. Each of us was created, meaning that, that miracle of conception was set in motion. All the things had to come together that created me, you, all of us individually, in order leharbot et hademut, to increase leharbot et hademut, that image of God, to increase and add unique dimension to the divine image that is present in the world. So not the guy up with the, somewhere with a big beard, my ear, your ear, my image, your image. The cultivation of that image is our task in this world, made up of equal measures of responsiveness to the cries of others, which are the cry of God, and nurturing our inner life. The presence of that same God within us. The God out there, the God in here. They are inseparable. So not abuse the widow and orphan of our feelings or the actual widow and orphan. You know, it goes from our feelings to other people, not to bear false rumor and to be that ear, to be that ear. So let's go ahead and sit. Settle yourself. And we're going to sit with those three things. Working within our own hearts and minds, and then eventually we will extend that to someone else whom it's easy to extend it to. So sitting relaxed and comfortable, feeling the spine rise up out of the pelvis, top of the head rises up, sitting relaxed but alert. Maybe taking a couple of deep cleansing breaths to start with. And then let the breath settle into its own natural rhythm. Begin to come down from the thinking mind into the body. Notice any physical sensation in any part of your body. Just deeply allowing it to be there without changing it in any way. Just let it have all the space it needs to find its own way of being. And if another physical sensation replaces it, become aware of that sensation in the same deeply accepting way. Begin to sense whatever emotional feeling is present within you. but from within the body. So not as an abstract thing to think about, but sensing how it feels from within. Might be very subtle. You might not be fully conscious of it. A little liking or disliking how things are. A sense of trying to get somewhere. Some anxiety or worry. Or contentment and calm. You may feel stronger emotion like fear, frustration, joy, annoyance. Or in this moment, you might just feel numb. We can work with all of those feelings. Or you're welcome to recall an emotional feeling that's very familiar to you and let yourself feel it now. Becoming aware of the feeling within you, the widows and orphans of your feelings that may have been pushed to the side. And for this time, with a sense of deep permission for it to be here. Deeply allowing it to be here, gently welcoming it, without getting enmeshed in it, without getting caught up, without needing to push it away, without trying to solve it or change anything in it, without worrying about why it's here. Just like a friend quietly present to a friend, let this feeling have the space it needs to find its own place and settle in its own time. including the feelings around any limiting language you may use for yourself, for others, and the feeling around, the tightness around that language. Let it have all the space it needs to find its own place and settle in its own time. Just rest with the feeling. There's nothing to do. Just rest with it, rest within it. No need to change anything. Just let things be. One feeling may open into another feeling. Just be with each one as they arise, allowing each the same spacious acceptance. And if there's part of you that's having difficulty with this practice today, notice the feeling within that reaction. Become compassionately aware of that feeling in the very same way. Letting that feeling of difficulty or resistance have all the space it needs to find its own place, settle in its own time. And now, if you like, you can stay with that, or if you like, you can move to this idea of being heard by God or even yourself. Relax and settle into the felt sense of being heard, of being known. If you cry out to capital N me, I will hear you, for I am compassionate. Relax into the felt sense of being heard and known. Open to the possibility of accepting this loving energy of being heard and known, accepting it into your whole body and mind unconditionally. And now notice or bring to mind someone nearby or someone for whom it's very easy for you to wish them well. And receiving this loving energy of being heard yourself, let that energy come through you now to another person. Let your ear be the ear of God and hear them, know them, not as a personality, but as a being worthy of love and attention. Imagine this energy infusing this person's whole being. Let this receptivity of hearing and knowing flow like loving energy from you to someone else, communing with them in their deep dignity and worth, wishing them well. And if part of you feels doubtful about this, you can just go back to feeling heard and known yourself. And after a while, just relax deeply into this felt sense of love and warmth and acceptance, of being heard and hearing, of being known and knowing. Let it help your heart and mind to trust and fall gently, completely open like space. Let the widows and orphans of thought and feeling unwind and release within this utter openness of awareness, the space of warmth and deep acceptance, letting all be. Thank you, everyone. Couldn't do it without you. It's really wonderful having just the force of your presence and the holding the ground together, holding the ground down together. Even if it's virtual, it makes a difference. So I want to be thoughtful of your time, and I'm happy to stay on, but I understand if people have to go. But happy to hear if anybody has questions or something that they would like to share from that practice. So I'm laughing. Mir, do you mind if I share that?
Sure.
Okay. Mir is battling, as so many people are, a bad cold. And notice that the deeper she got into meditation, the less her nose was running. Like all of this is very, very involved for sure. Mind-body connection is real. And not necessarily something we just push through, but it is real, and that's just such great noticing. Does anybody else question or just something to share?
I'll share that I was with my grandson over the weekend. This is Laura.
Mhm.
And I could feel our energies blending. I could feel
Mm.
my breathing. I don't know. How do you put all that in words? I don't know, but it was astounding. It was really astounding. And my daughter-in-law was like, I can't believe you've gotten so calm. She knew me when my husband was dying,
Ah,
and my meditation and qigong and other things I do have given me that inner stillness and acceptance and all that, but I could be there with that. And this baby, it was like we were good together. I'm the first stranger he's been with, so it was great. It was amazing. It was really
that's
amazing.
so wonderful. So when I talk about, like, somebody to commune with, that's exactly what I mean, of like just being there with them. It's not about the conversation, but somehow like that receptivity to each other and you don't have to do anything. It's just like, I'm just present to you, you're present to me, and yeah, and that's
And it's
what,
beyond all the language stuff. I mean, he's pre-language, right? So it's beyond all the language
yeah,
stuff. It
yeah,
was it was great. It was a great experience.
yeah. Bye, Deborah. Um, yeah, it is, and as we get better at paying attention, of bringing attention to that, now you have that moment. It's not necessarily to hold on to forever, but like you have the experience of that moment, and it can so easily be otherwise. Like you can be right in there, but our mind is somewhere else, or doing something else, or worried about something else, instead of just that. Let me just rest in this moment for a second. So good. So good.
I want to thank you for being here too, in the middle of our political reality, or whatever you want to call it, our altered reality.
No, it's reality. It's what's happening. It's what's happening, and we do this work so we can be with what is and still remember who we are, and what we meant to be doing, and how we meant to be. It could be very easy in a tough situation, and for many of us this is a tough situation. It can be very easy to shut down, to harden, to get snarky, and get that old man get off my lawn energy. But it takes hard work to touch into our inner wisdom, to hear with that God ear, to soften my heart in a way, to know when to soften it, to know when I need to protect it. Like, this is not simple. It's higher level stuff. But I hope we will have, be part of many communities, covenantal communities. There's our families, our friends, if you're in a synagogue or some other group of people, your dragon boat team, these are things where you know what you're asking of each other, and you're there for each other, and that is bringing that demut, that image of God, into the world. And we see the opposite is easy to do. So this must be done intentionally. It's a good thing. And bringing pictures of the baby is always a good thing. And Yogi is fine. Yogi is happy. He doesn't have to have the cone of shame on anymore. And he's had two other greyhounds are have very thin skin, but he's fine and happy, and we're both home, and he's very thrilled.
Thanks, Julie. Good seeing everybody. Have a good week.
Anybody else have something they want to share?
Julie, you mentioned, thank you so much for today. This is just amazing. You had mentioned earlier that you had an app that was help.
Oh, yes, yes. Um, it's called Five Calls. You can look it up in the Apple App Store. They probably have it in the Google Store too, but it's called Five Calls. And you tell it where you're from, and it has a list of issues, and then they give you like a script to call your representatives. So it's your Congress people and your senators, and it gives you the phone number, and it asks you to just say whether you left a message or not, but it tells you what to do. It makes it very easy to do something, and you don't have to. Of course, you don't have to say what they wrote. You can say whatever you want to say, but the point is to, that they're encouraging people to make 5 calls like every day or something like that. You do what you do. I've made more calls than I did before, and personally, I'm feeling like that. Like that's like if we have a tripod, 3-part tripod stool, that is the part that has just fallen down, and putting things askew is Congress. Anyway, so it's called 5 Calls. And for instance, there was stuff on there, oppose this person, oppose Kash Patel for FBI. That may be too late for that, but whatever. Defend the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Protect the mission of Environmental Protection Agents. Like you pick the thing that you want to talk about. Here's a condemn a U.S. takeover of Gaza. And there may be other ways that make more sense for you to get involved in. This makes sense for me. I know that I'm one of thousands of calls, but I also know that I believe it makes a difference. So that's me.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. And I feel like I'm doing something besides just sending money places. And sending money is fine too, but that there's something else to do. That I'm doing my duty as a citizen. Naomi.
Thank you. I wanted to say thank you for today, but also thank you for saying dragon boating as a community. I appreciated that. And we do have multiple. We have people on both sides of the red and the blue aisle, and maybe some are purple. I don't really know.
Yeah.
But when we come together, we are coming together for our own purpose. And if anybody ever wants information about dragon boating, it's a great sport. We'll start up again in April. You can go to stillcitydragons.org. We're out of Fox Chapel. So, yep.
They probably have them other places too, because everybody's somewhere else.
Yeah. And it's all over the world.
Yeah.
Thank you. I gotta go.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I didn't say that, but thank you for bringing up that. It's great to be, and really important to be in community with not just your best friends. Yes, your best friends, but also more than that. It's critical. This too shall pass, and then all the people are not leaving the country. All the Palestinians are not leaving Gaza. Like the people of the world are not evaporating. We need to be able to be in community with people, and people change their minds. And it hasn't always been like this. So, yeah. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much. Be well. I'll see you on Tuesday. We get a little more Mishpatim on Tuesday if you're available.